Okay, so let's just double check where we are. Looks to be good.
Well, hopefully we're live then. Very exciting. Welcome back. Very pleased to say I have Graham back this week.
Hello.
Hi, Graham. And
Hello.
yeah, he was quite ill for a while, but that's from all that working too hard, isn't it?
Just a little bit.
So I like to think I'm sort of an example to you. Of,
how little you can work.
Yeah, you can do almost nothing if you want, and almost no one notices. They're just thinking about themselves.
You'll get away with it. It'll be fine.
Yeah. So in that grand tradition, I'm going to do stupid painting tonight instead of anything useful. Let's get a bit of palette cleaning to go.
Oh, we all love a bit of palette cleaning.
Do we though? It's an interesting one, isn't it? Yeah, so I thought I'd do something from a different angle. So I'm sort of looking down on this. I can't really get more of a looking down angle than I've got, and still have the setup where anybody watching would be able to see what's going on. But there's a bit of it. I suppose I'm looking down at this about 45 degrees, which is relatively steep. And so we're going to get a different kind of way, a different kind of placement of things. They can be closer together and we can still see interesting spaces between them. Whereas the more level there is a sort of an old tradition of still lives where the ground plane, if you like, the surface that they're on, is almost at eye level. So
didn't we do that just before Christmas?
Yeah,
we did one at eye
so
level.
Objects on a shelf, I quite like doing that too. It's different ways of creating interest in terms of placement. It's very two-dimensional when they're at eye level. This is much more three-dimensional. The play of light across the space is much more visible. So yeah, lots to think about. I'm going to put some blue out.
And so what's been going on since the last time that you painted last week? Because I obviously wasn't here last week.
I don't think anything's been happening.
No.
No. No. I'm doing a bit of inventing.
Well, yes, you're making a new light. Is it a light box? Do you call that a light box? Or no, it's a light diffuser.
It's not even that really. It's a hyperbolic reflector light.
Fair enough. That's cool. If it's got a name, it's got a name. You're just
I suppose if you have to call it anything, you'd call it that. Yes, so especially useful if you're filming. In fact, the light above me, which you might be able to see if you look in the top right corner, is Mark 1. It's big, clunky and heavy, and some bits of it are coming to pieces. In fact, I'm going to put a bit more tape on there. But what it does do is it creates an even spread of light across the surface. So it should be that all parts of the canvas look like they've got roughly the same amount of light on them.
And why is that important for you as a painter?
Well, it's not important for me as a painter. It's important for the camera, because the camera can't adjust.
Ah, okay.
The camera has to look at the whole thing at once. So if it's not evenly lit, it will be really dark at the bottom and really light at the top. And it's only somewhere in the middle we'll be able to have any clue what's actually going on. yeah, so you can see as well, because I've got a glass palette directly underneath it, so it's also got a polarizing filter on, which if I adjust it differently, oh, that's moved itself. Oh, come on. Oh, that's why. Yeah. So you can see that glare,
Mm-hmm.
and that's got rid of it. So you can see the colours properly.
Yep.
It's because it gets rid of the reflections, which is useful. I'm going to change that a little bit. So yeah, there's a lot of fiddling around, propping things up. I'm going to do it again now, actually.
We like a good fiddle there.
Yeah, got rid of the shadow. There's a bit of bleeding light there, so you don't really want that. So I'll prop that here. That can fall over in a bit.
Oh, blimey, we're actually early this evening.
Early.
I thought that we were running late, but no.
This is going to ruin my reputation.
Sorry, that's probably my fault, isn't it?
Yeah, well, as long as people don't come to expect it. So yeah, colour-wise, the orange is the sort of the standout thing here. What's rather fun is that the background colour and the jug are much the same. So the jug is actually becoming part of the background. It's only the opening at the top that really plays a big part. And I'm going to be talking a bit about colour temperature in this one as well. So I've got a warm light from the front, warm, and a cool light at the back. Got a visitor.
Indeed. Hello.
Right, so I guess I'll kick off with some of this local colour of this blue, which I've mixed many times before. Yeah, and I'll put it over here. Put a bit of ultramarine in there. And then add viridian to it until it's the right hue. Once I've got the recipe, I can always make more of this. So sometimes it's good to go slightly over. A bit like tuning a guitar string. If it's really close, it can be quite hard, but if you just drop it down so it's obviously flat and then just bring it up slowly into the note you want, you're more likely to be bang on. So again, it's close. So interesting things happen with colours when they go into shadow or into light, and that's something I'm going to explore, have a bit of fun with. Viridian. It's probably too much now. I've probably gone over the limit. Ooh. And also this is very high chroma, so this is very intense colour. I can't make it any more intense than it is at this particular hue angle. Yeah, going to come back a little bit. Yeah, a bit more white in that, a little bit more blue. and I make a grey to match it. And it's unusual for me, as anyone familiar will know, I normally start off just scribbling some drawing in, but on this occasion this colour is going to be important, and I will probably use it right from the beginning, not with white in it as much as that, but
Susan's messaged us already.
Ah,
Somebody else who's also early,
right.
which is good. She said, we're sitting in the sunshine watching my son's chicken and we've fed them. It's so lovely and warm here. I hear it's cold back in the UK. Hope it warms up a bit before next week when we come back.
Thanks, Susan.
Yeah, it's great, isn't it? It's
Yeah, that's
really
really
good. Doesn't that make you feel lovely?
Yeah, well, actually, you might not have heard, and they're probably keeping it quiet on the news, and the weather apps won't tell you either. But we've actually got some rather glorious tropical weather, and every day the King's Equerries are coming out and giving out free money to everyone.
Yeah.
I got £1,000 in an envelope today, just handed to me, and also all ice cream is free from now on as well, until next week. I think they're stopping it next week.
Yeah, it's next week. From
Next
what
week,
I've heard.
no more free ice cream.
Yeah.
But yeah, I hope you're having a great time. Oh, that's lovely.
Well, nice that she's still joining us from. Well, do you know where she's gone?
I think she's in California.
Ooh.
Which is a big place, so it's non-specific, but I won't ask her to provide details. But I'm glad the chickens are fed.
Yeah.
It's important. Okay, let's have a grey now. I'm going to use that same blue. Bit of raw umber. This is going to be a greeny grey, but greeny grey is okay. I'm going to add a bit of red to that. And I'm going to try and get a colour scheme going on the palette that will sort of help me in some way. Okay. So it's time now, is it?
It is time now, yeah. You can start.
Right, well, may as well crack on then.
But whilst we're all here.
Yeah. Now, for drawing colour, I'm not just going to go with raw umber. I want something that's going to go against that blue. Which is this is kind of opposite it. But no, a bit more orange. There you are. So I'm going to use a warm colour for the drawing. And there's a few things in my way, so this is probably going to be a little awkward in places. But I'm just going to squinting, and I've got an angle like that. Like that. Probably move that up a bit. So I'm going to have a glass around here somewhere, jug around here somewhere. Maybe put the handle up there, which is going to put my orange around here somewhere. Ish, edge of the glass. Good. Yeah, so let's chuck in a few shadow shapes. Which are also going to go into here. I'll use this up quickly. Let's do that again then. Use a bit of alizarin this time. Okay, what we're going to have.
The visual from your phone camera seems to be jittery.
Jittery.
Mm.
Is it doing it now? Is it okay now?
Place it in front of the screen.
Ah, oh yeah, I see what you mean. I'll have a little fiddle with that in a second. I suppose it won't matter too much while I'm just getting some drawing in.
Oh, it seems to have worked itself out.
Oh, that's good news.
Might have been something to do with the bit rate or...
Well, yes. That was quite good, Graham. Sounds like you knew what you were talking
Yeah, I
about.
know,
There.
it's good, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's it. Something about super bites or something, isn't it?
That's super duper bites. So that's quite pleasing. The bottom of that square is around here. So I might make a bit of a change there. Bit of rhythm going on, but yeah, drawing wise, I'm just trusting my gut with it really, which is, I suppose, a hard-earned privilege, he says, until it stops working. But yeah, didn't always used to be the case, but I can now kind of relax about the drawing and just trust the sort of the autopilot to take over. That's not to say I'm not going to fiddle around with it and change it a little bit. Is that orange too far off to one side? So at this point, I can still change the composition a little. I can see an image coming together, which is quite fun.
I do find it fascinating how you've used a relatively dark colour in the background, and it's quite a light blue that is then going to be going across the top of it.
Oh, you mean, well,
Well, I mean,
you
like
mean
the whole
around
thing,
here?
how you're doing your outlines and things. Like, what's the reason behind doing that?
Well,
rather than using blue?
part of it's relative tones. So first of all, I'm getting some shapes in. So, you know, I've got this shape of shadow on this orange, which is going to be in here somewhere, which is also slightly lighter than that dark behind it. So these shadows around here are quite deep, and that's the first ones I built. And the others are going to relate to that to some degree. Yeah, some are pretty much the same, some are slightly different. It's going to be a highlight there. Yeah, there's a dark edge on that. So if I, oh, yeah. Again. Yeah, we've got quite a lot of shadow in the background, and then this is going to come across and be a sort of a soft shadow across there. So you can see I'm sort of controlling how dark and light different parts are in order to, yeah, in order to see what's going on. So this is going to be a bit darker in here. But, ooh, very nice. So there's these shadow shapes on the side of the jug. Should go into here. A bit more colour on the front.
It's really not enjoying that camera this evening.
Okay. I'll tell you what I'll do is I'll try. I might have other things running. Well, it's still just presenting the image reasonably well.
It is, yeah. It's just the, like, you placing stuff on the canvas is looking a bit funky, but
Get rid of some of those construction lines. If I'm not sure about where those lines go, I'll just blur them a bit. Start chucking some colour on. There you are, kind of got an image now. Okay, let's have a little fiddle with this.
yeah, have you got any other apps that are open with it at the moment? Or?
Oh yeah, all of them. Let's close everything. Don't mock my mental condition.
It's not mocking at all.
It's an affliction. It's not my fault. Okay. I need to, oh, crikey. Now I need to figure out how to reconnect it now. This is fun, isn't it?
Unplug it and plug it back in.
I tried that. Where would it be? Might be in general. Might be in control center. Nope. If anyone knows how these things work, I appreciate that.
Is it Bluetooth connection or wired connection? There you go.
Ta-da. Right. Oh, there we are. No, this is better. That looks better, doesn't it?
It does, yeah.
Good.
Josie's on board.
Oh, hi, Josie.
Hi, James.
Okay.
Hey, Josie, how are we doing? Your hand in the camera then was brilliant. To double check it, you just did this.
Yeah.
It just looked funny on the
Yeah,
screen.
not really that committed, am I?
Yeah.
Should have done hand puppets or something, shouldn't I?
Ooh, there's a bit Punch and Judy.
Yeah.
If that's the way to do it.
Yeah, I'd never really got Punch and Judy. Even as a child, it didn't seem like entertainment.
No.
I guess I was already a sort of a child of the 70s, you know. We already had
There was an evil man that hit somebody with a stick,
well, I don't.
and the policeman hit him with a stick.
I think there was a lot of general hitting with sticks. I mean, it wasn't exactly true to life, was it? In that sense,
Well, no.
there was a crocodile.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's a clue there. If you're taking it too literally, there's a crocodile. So maybe calm down a bit. But but yeah, no, it was more that like it was one of those things, a bit like Morris dancing. There's a tradition, so we keep doing it.
Yeah.
And you sort of value the tradition, but the actual thing itself is really just embarrassing and bad. Apologies to any Morris dancers. I'm just kidding. I'm not apologising for that. You should be ashamed of yourself.
Yeah, they should be the ones apologising to us. But I do like quite a lot of traditions. So
No,
I
and me
quite enjoy
too.
going to watch them.
Absolutely. I think we should have more of those things. I think basically we rely way too much on Morris dancers and clog dancers who their little groups to keep these things going. It ought to be it's such a pagan culture that we really ought to, you know, honour some of that and keep it alive a bit more, I think. You know, someone was talking the other day about the floral dance, and it used to be a thing that people did, you know, that, you know, in the spring you'd celebrate the flowers coming out.
Well, there's the thing as well, wassailing as well, isn't there?
Yeah, and
you
all of
know,
that.
having a celebration, a drink, and a dance to try and bring forward a good harvest.
Quite. And like the other day with the burning in the sticks.
Yes.
I'm not going to say what it's actually called because YouTube won't understand and will think we're a hate group. But it's a bundle of sticks that they burn, and it's to bring good fortune. And
It was brilliant. It was really good, and the fact that there was a group of men that was sitting by the fire, who were kind of in control of this bundle of sticks.
And you keep shoving it in.
Yeah,
and you time it. How long it takes is important.
But every bloke had their own kind of like idea of how it should be pushed into the fire, and everybody was
like a
willing.
barbecue without ruining any food, isn't it?
And every bloke was standing around just going, "Oh, I'd do it like this," but every bloke listened. There was no kind of, "Oh, I know better than you." It's just, "Oh, you should try this, try this, try this."
I think that is a tradition, and I think actually that is a big part of how men work together when there's no one around to impress. There's a good argument for segregated classrooms, not schools. You know, kids should all hang out with each other, but I think boys do a lot better when there's no girls to impress in the classroom.
Oh, just going to answer. Josie has asked if I'm better. Yeah, the majority, Josie, yes.
He's fine, don't fuss after him. Malingering for a week. Yeah. It's just laziness, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Just thought I'd just take it easy for a while and make some lame excuse. And mind you, She won't be watching, but get well to Ashley because she's just had her tonsils out.
Mm-hmm.
Which means you're back at work full time for a while, aren't you?
A little bit, yeah. Yeah, Alex and I are sharing it out.
Yeah, you won't be able to fob all the work off onto your oppressed minimum wage staff anymore. Actually turn up and do something for once.
I'll get you involved, James.
If you want me to destroy your business in a week,
You want a what?
more than happy to oblige. It used to be so nice in here. I don't know what's happened. I don't think anyone complained about the quality of the coffee, though. I think I could pick that bit up.
Oh yeah, that's easy.
Yeah.
Afternoon, you'd be able to do that.
Yeah. It's things like customer service and caring. That's the word I was looking for. You have to care about it, don't you?
It certainly helps.
Okay, I'm putting a general load of blobs of this colour in its relative spaces. I'm not worrying about edges too much or anything like that. There's a lot of things going to change around. I'm going to use a bit of oil, make it spread out, and that will make an oily surface, which will be harder to work into later, but you can find your way around. That's going to be interesting. There's bits already in the wrong place. Yeah. Oh, actually, I was thinking about the. For those of you that don't know, these pictures go on display the next day in Graham's coffee shop, Bean Shop Coffee, which is on South Street, and it's and so he's been generously given me a wall in his coffee shop to display whatever nonsense I produce on a Monday night. And I'm rubbish with this stuff. I ought to do a lot more with it. So I've been doing quite a few smaller pictures, and the wall's looking a little bare actually. There's a lot of space there, but yeah, we were talking before about sort of dolling it up a bit. So what do you reckon to that?
Yeah, absolutely. Or we put, like, if you've got small paintings, we could put more on that.
Well, yeah, that was the other idea. And I was thinking as well, if I had a load of small paintings, I could have some lower priced things for the cultured opportunist. Okay, I'm going to do a second blue before I carry on. I might put a few bits of this in here. Where else is it? That's pretty much it. There you are. Now that's going to get a bit grayer. A bit more ultramarine in there as well.
Well, it has been nice to come back because obviously we had quite a bit of time off over Christmas period. Yeah. Good to get back in and doing things again, remembering how to make it all.
Yeah. Yeah, I do like going there.
Yeah, it's kind of towards the tail end of last year you started coming in a little bit more, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean it's a great way to procrastinate, which is something you know, anyone who knows me knows how dedicated I am to the art of procrastination. It's one of my special skills. But yeah, a lot of the time especially if I'm trying to make something, there's a lot of ruminating, a lot of sort of guesswork, or just sort of going over things in your head and trying things out, if you like, in a sort of a, what do you call it? Yeah, sort of a mental process. And yeah, a coffee shop is a really great place to do that.
I read this really great quote. You mentioned procrastinating, and it's somebody that said, if there was a pill to cure procrastination, I'd probably take it tomorrow.
That's good. See, I wouldn't, because I recognize the value of it. I think there's a lot of, it's something I've been thinking about a lot recently. There's been a lot of you know, talk about neurodiversity and sort of the way people are in the world, and understanding that, which is all great progress, really. I think the more we can sort of figure out the ways in which we work and how to manage that, and get everyone to, you know, contribute, you know, as you know, as they would like to, I suppose.
But did you see that there was a neurodiversity morning at the Sherborne?
Yes,
on Saturday, which was headed by Emma, which is great.
Yeah, it's a group, isn't it?
It was a good success, apparently.
Good. Yeah, a sort of a quiet viewing.
Yes, yeah. And apparently, they all met, but then didn't go round together, but they were texting each other about the artwork that they were seeing on their group WhatsApp, which I thought was really fantastic. That it, as a group, without it being suggested, that then became a thing that people were doing, and it meant that you were getting a conversation going about artwork.
Yeah,
which is brilliant.
Okay, now I've got two lighting sources here, and one of them is quite yellow, and that's on the inside. And this is the change in colour it creates. I haven't got any dark on this yet, so I'm not going to go ahead with that just yet. But that'll come. I'll put a bit of that in there. Wander across. And every time I do this, I'm looking in the glass as well, because the glass doesn't have its own colour. It just has borrowed colour from its background and reflections. Popping a bit of that in too. Okay, and then it gets quite intense around some of the shadows. So around here, actually more intense colour because it's in shadow, and that's where the blue really gets to do its thing. Same inside here, in the handle. Not worrying about precise details or anything like that yet. That can all wait. But already there's sort of the shapes are starting to come out.
I really like it when your paintings get to this sort of stage, because there's a real rawness to it without it being perfect. You tell exactly what it is.
Yeah. Oh, hang on. Just finding a few. I put that in the wrong place. Yeah, and I sometimes wish I could keep this more of. I do over fiddle with things. Sometimes I wish I didn't. I can do too much of it, but ultimately there's this other thing of the reason I'm painting isn't to make a good painting. The reason I'm painting is the act of doing it and what I discover and why it's interesting to me, and that's the thing that keeps me coming back. Otherwise I would have got bored and stopped doing it at some point through lack of success and and just not being that engaged with the whole the whole thing. You could lose your interest.
So have
quite
you
easily.
looked much into why artists paint or painted?
I think it's quite clear to artists. It's just very hard to communicate with someone who doesn't have that. Yeah, I mean, if you go on to, if you read any statements from artists about what they do and why they do it, they'll be saying the same things again and again, which is it's just what they do. It's just how they exist in the world. And I think you see a similar thing with sports people. It's the classic one is the asking mountaineers why climb a mountain, and the best they can come up with is because it's there, and it's a very famous response.
Mm-hmm.
It's very unsatisfactory as well. Like that's not an answer because it's there. It's a stupid thing to say. It's slightly insulting. It was a perfectly reasonable question, and it is a perfectly reasonable question, but there isn't a perfectly reasonable answer to it. The only answer is, there is no good reason for doing it. I must be a bit sort of unhinged, and that's probably more accurate. That's really true of most artists, is that they don't really know why they do it. They just know they have to, and they know if they don't do it. You could say the same thing about socializing. Why do you talk to people? Well, it seems like a silly question to you, but you try and answer it.
Mm-hmm.
You can come up with stuff, but none of them are really reasons. Makes me feel better, but that's not a reason to do it, other than and maybe that's the other thing. Maybe there's this sort of idea of, maybe it's as simple as that, but there's this idea that you have to be grandiose in some way, that people, when they ask that question, are expecting some answer, like it's this sort of, I'm trying to communicate this thing to the world, and I'm exercising this or whatever power to sort of make a difference, or any of that nonsense. And yeah, you'd give up pretty quickly if that were really the reason, because there's very little reward in it, if I'm honest, other than the act of doing it itself. And without that, you just wouldn't. I think that's true of a lot of things. I think a lot of things we do because of the doing of them. If we did it for the reward, we'd be disappointed pretty quickly and give up pretty quickly. Okay, so this is getting interesting now, because I'm finding more and more places that these other colours can go. I'm keeping them quite strong, quite bright. That might be a bit too much. Pop a bit of the grey in there. Yeah, it's blending quite nicely. So my background's working pretty well here. I've got a set of colours. I'm going to actually mix some, since that colour's turned out to be so useful. I'm going to mix some more of it. And it's basically a bit of alizarin and a bit of ultramarine. That's the intense version. And then I'll pop a bit of light in there just to sort of take the edge off.
Oh, some information you might quite like. Imi, who we had in here a while back,
Oh yeah.
her boyfriend proposed to her,
Oh, that's sweet.
and she said yes.
Oh, okay. That's a nice ending.
Yeah.
Now, if she'd told him, what are you thinking? Of course not. That would be a less cheerful story. that sounds absolutely predictable. I'd be more surprised if that hadn't happened, if I'm really honest. I mean, everything was working out for her, wasn't it? All cheerful and optimistic.
Oh, absolutely.
No, it's very nice to know. Okay, I'm going to soften some of these, get that blue into more spaces, but really quite fine. Something here. This has all been done with the same brush as well. It gets darker. And so now I can start to really put in some light effects as well. Oh, yeah. Right, a second brush. I'm using 10s at the moment. Nothing too small and fiddly. That in.
10s, I take it, means millimeters.
No, it's just the size of brush. In fact, it doesn't really mean anything.
Okay. An arbitrary number.
Yeah. Yeah, and the 10 in one size is different. It's a bit like ladies' clothes sizes, I suppose.
Oh, 10 in one brand is a different
Yeah.
10 in another.
Yeah, it's a rough idea.
It's 10. It's a 10. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this size, you can see what size brush it is. Look, I'm holding it up. That's it next to my thumb. So it's about a thumb size. If it's sort of finger painting, I'm still on the thumb. Past the heel of the hand, onto the thumb, not yet down to the end of the finger.
We're going down the route of American ways of measuring things now, aren't we? It's like there's, it's about a quarter of an elephant.
Yeah. Yes, and I think Americans feel a bit hard done by that. You know, the fact that they're still but actually, there's the point is the rest of the world uses both. You know, we still use imperial all the time because there's loads of things it's completely practical for. You know, I weigh 14 stone and you're 7 foot tall, and all those sorts of things. And there's all sorts of measurements we have that no one ever questions, which are utterly meaningless, like shoe sizes. What does that even mean?
You know the one that gets me? Tog.
Right.
What's a tog?
Well, I suppose, it's not surprising that we're unfamiliar with units of sort of thermal insulation. It's the sort of thing that generally only scientists would be dealing with. So I think that's sort of almost reasonable. But yeah, I get where you're coming from.
When somebody says what tog is your Duva, it's like it's not got any togs on it.
But does anyone actually say that?
Yeah.
I've never inquired about anyone's preferred tog rating. I don't even know what tog my duvet is.
That's the whole thing. Because you can have a summer tog and a winter tog.
I think if you've got time to worry about that kind of stuff, then you're not finding enough things to worry about. Okay, so here's an interesting thing. Orange. Orange is a bit impossible. I'm going to need a bit more cadmium red. There it is. Yeah, very, very difficult colour to match because the paint will never quite be as orange things. And in any kind of dim light, orange is the first thing to disappear. So, but conversely, in bright light, things become more orange, so we can create light effects. So it's a good knowledge to have, but it can be difficult when you're dealing with pigments. I do have a tube of chrome orange, which has got a few squeezes left in it. It might be the last one. I don't think, yeah, they don't make it anymore. Cadmium orange even isn't quite as bright. But there you are. So there's my orange. And I'm going to mix this orange with some of this blue. Make a bit more, shall we? Slightly redder. And I'll mix some with some of this blue to make the shadow colour. Pop a little bit of white in it first, so it's about the same tone. Because of the blue, we've got quite a greeny shadow, but there's going to be some warmer bits in there as well. In a different situation, if it were a warm colour beneath it, then those oranges would go really red. So this is a colour temperature thing. I'm going to put a bit more red in that, because it would be a redder orange that's been made greener. And this is the kind of world of nonsense colour we enter into with painting. But there we are. Is that a clean brush? It's a clean brush. Again, you use a tiny dab of oil just on the brush. I'll just put some of those shapes in here. Yeah, it's going to get yellower on the top, but I can add that in later on. Tonally it works. It's that little bit lighter than yeah, the blue next to it. Don't want to worry too much about a hard edge. That sort of creeps over. Get the excess off, and I'll keep using the same brush. And then the most orange will meet up with that shadow. Creep underneath a little bit. It'll be a bit yellower on the top, but
I do like the comment of the most orange.
yes. I'm going to use a bit of this as well to make that, and a bit of the grey to make the shadow that goes inside. Might not work as well as I want. A bit redder. Shadow colour that goes inside the jug. Dig a bit of that out. I still haven't got my dark background for up at the back, so I'll go to put that in next, I guess. Yeah. Yeah, pretty good. Now, always look in the glass, see if there's any in there. And here we've got a few of those yellowy shapes along the bottom. Where else have we got them? A little bit in here. Oh. Where else? Maybe there. Maybe a bit in here. Yeah, okay. Right.
So you painted a few oranges lately. What's the kind of fascination at the moment with them?
It's basically a way of putting a big blob of colour in the middle of something that might otherwise be quite neutral. But then obviously once they're there, they start taking on their own identity.
So is the goal with like putting a big blob of colour on, like you've done here, to then actually not make it the focal point? Or are you trying to make that the focal point?
Well, look at this area of warm. It's complete contrast to the blue background, but it's also turning up inside the jug. It's also turning up on here. Now I've got that red on. Let's pop a bit of that in there. Look at that. And it starts to travel around the subject matter, you know, carried by the glass. Quite know what it's doing, why I put that there. It was fine before. Let's pop a bit into that shadow there as well. That. Oh, that's quite fun. So yeah, it gives it. I'll tell you what I'll do next. Before we have a break, I don't know if I'm ahead of time. I'm going to mix up some dark colour. Now I started off with this raw umber and what was it? A bit of alizarin. Something to warm it up. I'm going to put the tiniest bit of mixing white in there just to give it a bit more opacity.
Catherine on the YouTube part saying, "Hey James, good to watch you paint. I'm in my studio painting also. Very comforting to watch you work."
Oh, well, that's nice. So I hope I'm not putting you off. I'd like to know what you're working on. It's like a little private club, isn't it?
Oh, it is, yeah.
We were talking before about engineers. Were we live then? I don't think we were.
No, I don't think we were, no.
But how engineers are people who are quite used to being solitary and are good at being solitary and produce, you know, are most useful when they're solitary, probably when they're problem solving. It's an internal thing that's hard to communicate to other people. And so we don't really get to, a bit like artists, we don't really get to see what they do or how they behave. And the idea of it'd be quite nice to, if you were an engineer, it'd be nice to be in a room with other engineers while you work, I think sometimes, or at least to be around them. If someone in the room next door for you to just sort of chinwag about.
If you're in the same room, you probably still wouldn't talk, but
yeah.
You're in the same room.
What do we think about that?
Karen says, I'm working on an acrylic moon. I'm normally an oil painter, so it's an interesting channel.
Okay. Acrylic moon. I've got a friend who does a load of stuff with the moon, and it's an interesting subject matter. So
is that Jess?
Yeah. It's humankind's erstwhile companion, isn't it? I mean, I always think it's interesting that we see a human face in the moon. There's something telling about that. You know, we sort of put symbols into the stars, but the moon's got an actual face and a personality almost.
When you say you put symbols into the stars, do you mean like the constellations?
Yeah.
But surely you'd be the first person to kind of like jump up and just go, yeah, that's not a plough.
Well,
that's not a person. That's not somebody holding holding a bow and arrow.
On the contrary, it's the beginning of picture making is seeing a face in clouds or something like that. It's called pareidolia.
I like that, seeing a face in clouds, because you can actually see a face in clouds. But then if you like,
you know, it's not there. You know, there is no one put the face there. It's not a real face. It's about a personal experience, and and we give identity to things. So I was talking about still life. One of the things that you quite often use an orange is I'll give the orange a name. and tell the story about how it came all the way from Florida, and was really quite excited to be here. It was in a boat a long way. It made friends. Had to see them go by. Ended up in a supermarket, and I picked it up. And you can give it a name. Call it Bob.
And it thought it was
whatever.
going to be eaten, and
But then,
no,
if
it's not.
you-
It's going to be painted.
And if you drew a face on it and all that, and then if you threw it on the floor, it would seem like a horrific act of violence to
this
anyone
is,
who heard the story.
going along the lines of Tom Hanks in
Yes,
Castaway. With
it's Wilson. Exactly. And we Wilson everything if we're given enough time.
Or we have enough googly eyes that we can stick on stuff.
Exactly, or bleeding hands, whichever works.
Big fan of googly eyes.
So yeah, so the moon has many personalities, as many personalities as humankind itself, and I always find that quite enjoyable. But it's it's singular. The stars are collections of things. They're indistinct in the sense that they're just points of light. It's only something like a planet which has some peculiar movement and possibly a perceptible color or even size. Just about you can just about see that Venus or Jupiter or Mars are bigger than the other stars, but it's a toughie. It's not an easy thing to spot. Oh, well, I've got this dark on the brush. I'm looking for other places that it goes.
What was beautiful the other evening, I don't know whether you saw it or not, but it was there was a moon, and it was it full moon? Just off a full moon, I think. And then right next to it, as you were sort of looking up in the sky, I think it must have been Jupiter. It was the brightest star in the sky. And it was just right next to it. And it's sort of very unusual to see them both next to each other in such a way, and then have a clear enough sky to be able to actually see them both very, very clearly.
Yeah.
It was lovely.
Yeah. And sort of relationship with the sky. Like I said, it's as old as humanity. Okay. I'm going to try and keep this quite rough at this point. There's places here where I just think I'm doing shapes, but I'm really actually pulling out the structure of the glass to some degree. Yeah, it's really starting to show up. In here. Yes, I did a picture for my friend Matt, who's, if you're unfamiliar, is Skinflower Music. His music's on my time lapses. He'll, if he's here, he'll remind us what the word is. But there's a word, I think it's a Scandinavian word, for the ladder, the path of light of the reflection of the moon on water. I did a little sort of picture off the cuff to for him to use for his EP cover. Yeah, so now there's a surface of paint on, I can start to put other colour into it. And I can do the same thing with light. So I didn't really point it out at the time, but I've got, oh look, another 10. I'll use that. I've got a light colour that I mixed, a slightly yellowy light.
Oh, Josie's just piped in. She said, or was it Venus, Graham? It could well have been. Yeah, my astrology knowledge is not...
No, you're talking about astronomy.
Astronomy, yeah.
Well, it's limited that you don't even know the difference between astrology and astronomy.
I'll get back in my books.
Oh, I feel bad now. Oh, it's gone.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, it passed.
Yeah. There you are. So stick some light here. Now I've got to think a bit about the directions going on here. I've got that diagonal line, so I kind of want to work against it like this. And that will give some sort of accentuation thing to
Yeah, it appears that I was wrong. Catherine's just piped in. It says it may have been Venus next to the moon. Venus is the brightest of all the cosmic objects outside of the moon and the stars. She was the goddess of beauty, which is why it was linked to the brightest.
Oh, well, I'm really mostly admiring how polite everyone's being.
Yeah, please let me just open the window and I'll jump out of it.
Yeah, no, well, that's the thing. I know everyone's been perfectly forgiving. Yeah. You might find that everyone knows perfectly well it's Venus, but no one's going, it's Venus, you idiot.
And I can only thank you all enough for that.
So it's just a better quality of human being tuning into these things.
Or was I being sort of clever in my way of getting engagement on the post by saying the wrong thing?
No, you won't. But I've learnt my lesson with pink dolphins. So
Yeah. I
don't know anything
actually,
anymore.
honest God, did I tell you about the there was a female programmer who was trying to find the answer to a piece of code?
Yes. I like this story. Do carry on.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So she then wanted to find out the answer to it. So then signed up to a fake account on a code questioning website and posted the question herself, went on with this fake profile, answered it incorrectly, and then had loads of people said, no, actually, you're wrong with that one. What you really need to do is this. And then gave her the exact code that she needed to use.
And got the answer.
Got the answer. Oh, genius.
Yes, perhaps people are more inclined to correct others than they are to actually do anything useful. I'm not going to do any more detail there. I'm going to resist the detail. Where am I with this? It's starting to appear, and I'm starting to fiddle a little bit. Oh, you know what that could do with, don't you?
Spatula!
Spatula time.
We're going to love a spatula. Oh, it's the same colour as what you're actually painting at the moment, which is beautiful.
Yeah, break some of those edges. Let some of that paint escape into different places. That's nice. Oh, yes, yeah. I suppose it is. Smooths it out flat. I haven't got the highlight on for the jug yet. I'm not entirely happy with the way this jug is appearing, and it's because it needs to be darker on the inside here. The orange is going to get this bright highlight on it. The glass, yeah, I'm not happy with any of those marks that I made.
Well, seeing as you're there with the spatula of madness, is now the time to call a break.
Yeah,
have a quick sort of 5-10 minute.
I think it probably is.
Interval.
Actually, I'm going to do one more thing before. Oh, I need a brush stand. That's the next thing I need to build for myself.
I think you look quite good with 8 brushes in your right hand.
It's just, but when I do need to put them down, I don't really have. They end up rolling in the in the paint.
Catherine said, I've never seen anyone use a spatula with oil. This is actually brilliant.
Good. I'm glad. It's a thing I discovered. I know there are some gimmicky artists who sort of do a painting and then use a squeegee and spread it out, and everyone goes, "Oh, it's really cool." I think it's, I think it's a bit gimmicky. But in terms of smoothing the paint flat, getting rid of brush marks, because you want new brush marks on top and you don't want the old ones to be distracting, and also to have it all started with the color shaper. There, I hope there's one in here somewhere. Well, that's one. Here we are. This thing, and it's a silicone thing. And if you want to clear a space to make a mark, if I wanted to put a highlight there, I could just take that paint away, and in that bit of the painting, the paint's just gone. It's pretty much like blank canvas, and it's really effective and helpful. And so I work my way up to larger spatulas like this, but it's the most important thing is it's silicone, silicone, and it's it kind of clears the space. But the bigger the spatula, the more it just kind of spreads the paint out. It's great for breaking edges. If you've done too much detail and you don't like it, and you don't want to wipe it completely with white spirit, but you do want to sort of obliterate what you've done a bit, and maybe even move some paint out a little bit like that. You know, you can get some really nice effects with it, but it still means that you can go back with the next layer without worrying too much about it. Kind of buys you another layer of painting. I'll normally have a drawing layer, you know, sort of imprimatura with thinned paint, and the thinner evaporates and it just kind of stains the surface. So I avoid anything opaque, just use some raw umber or burnt umber or something like that. And then a ground layer, which is what I've done here. And this is basically preparation for me to now do a painting. So mostly the live streams are 45-minute paintings, but all the painting happens from now on. So we're going to have a little break.
Yeah. Catherine's just said I'm going to give it a go next time I work in oil.
Have a play. Yeah, it's good fun. I reckon if you're quick enough, it might produce interesting effects with acrylic as well. I don't know. It's the wet in wet thing it works well with. So acrylic, you've got to kind of, depends on the condition of your paint, doesn't it? And the humidity and all that. Acrylic dries quickly, for your information, Graham.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good to know. Right, we're going to go on to one of the time lapses.
Go on then.
See you in a bit.
Yeah, shortly.
Well, that's not a time lapse, so we won't go on to that one. There we go. Very good. No, I'm all right, thank you. I'm all good. want to do another round of that. Yeah, I'm not surprised actually. Very dark, isn't it? Wait, what are we with that one? No, not that one. That's the one that we need. And we're back. Hello, hello.
Microphone back.
It has been this evening. I've been tuning in periodically just to double check it.
Right. Have a think about what a few things. So, I put my some warmer shadows. I want some more, a bit more haze. It's hard to describe it, and obviously the cameras will pick it up, but got a sense of a haze around here. And the warm light when it comes in is obviously bringing up some interesting things at the front bit. I'm going to do them last. That's the sort of pick up the orange, pick up the last specular highlights of the jug. I do need to get the actual jug sorted out. So I'm talking about brush storage. I'm just going to put these brushes still on the side. No, I'm cleaning up. Yeah, I'm going to give them a clean. Reorganize the palette. There's a few things I'd quite like to do. The pale glaze for this light coming in, which is light, but it's not completely white. It's still got certain together.
We spoke about the sound and then now it's gone weird.
My microphone. Switched it off and switched it on again, so hopefully that's okay.
Yeah, mine's fine. Yours is a bit distant.
Oh, it's flashing as well.
Do you want to take my one?
Sure. You can actually put that on as well. Oh yeah, that is better, isn't it? That's the battery running down. Or you could probably just plug it, if you plug it into this. And tap it. Oh no, once it's plugged in, it doesn't work. Okay. We switch,
That's fine.
if we switch this on. Yeah. You got the in-house microphone. Where was I?
Teething issues. Sorry, guys.
Yeah.
James is back.
Say hello, 1, 2.
Yeah, we're all good.
I'm just checking your levels.
Oh, my levels. Yeah, that's fine.
The microphone's behind your head, but
Yeah, my one's fine.
it should pick you up.
Right. Well, we should charge it after every time that we use it.
I guess so. I must have. Maybe I didn't charge it after last week.
Go away for 1 week.
Or maybe you need to charge. No, actually, you know what? I think the one that's working is the one I used last week and then put on to charge afterwards. I think the other one's just been sat there. So I don't know how long these microphones are going to last. They were very cheap, much like me. Well, no, they weren't super cheap. I didn't like buy junk, but
Dolly Parton phrase of it costs a lot of money to look this cheap.
yes. Okay. Oh yeah, I was talking about putting some lights on. So I've got. What I don't want to do is use a sort of titanium white or anything like that, because it's sort of cloudy. So I'm going to use a flake white and make a glaze. I'm going to make it slightly yellowish because it will pick up enough blues and greens from this where it plays around. Oh, that was the other thing. I need to really define the shape of this jug, but maybe that'll happen afterwards. Yeah, I think it will. I think that'll happen afterwards. I've got a tube of flake white over here, somewhere. Oh yeah, there's one. It's surprisingly heavy. This would be a good time to be wearing some gloves, wouldn't it?
Excited.
Thank you. Okay, can't open that one. Can't be bothered with the hot water. I will have another tube of this somewhere. There we are. Oh, that's a new tube. And that one won't come out.
Catherine says, oh, you're using the Michael Harding's paints. They're my favourite. They once gave me a free tiny tube of magenta and they got me hooked.
Yeah, that's how they do
really it worked on me.
He's like a drug pusher around the back of the school, that man. Yeah, they are among the more superior paints.
What price range are you looking from for sort of like the same tube of paint but from different manufacturers for the different qualities? What price range are you going from?
Okay, well, it depends. Yeah, it depends on a few things. That's a much bigger question than you realise. The fundamental thing you're buying is pigment, so it wouldn't be fair to compare, say, the price of, you know, a tube of Viridian to a tube of Viridian hue.
Okay.
So student paint will quite often, it will have the hue, but as in it's the same colour as Viridian. That makes sense?
Mm-hmm.
Viridian is a green.
Yeah, Kevin just put in, Michael Harding's is about the same as a kidney.
and yeah, it depends, but yes. That's very good.
Okay, point taken.
Yeah. But within the same pigments, it comes down to pigment load. When it's cheaper pigments like earth pigments, you know, so something like umbers or ochres or siennas, the pigment's the same price to everybody, and it's so cheap that really you're paying for the quality of the oil and the consistency and even the quality of the tube. So there won't be as much difference. So like a tube like this might be about 15 quid if it's a student colour, but it'd have less pigment in it. If it's but if it's a cheap pigment, actually it might not be a lot different. So you could buy a cheaper tube of paint. Consistency is important as well. So for example, the Michael Harding yellow ochre, I won't use it, gritty, which is kind of how it always would have been. But I prefer sort of the over-processed sort of thing that you actually get in student paint.
So can you then, if something's overly gritty, can you actually see it in the painting that you produce?
No, it's about the feel. It looks the same, probably looks slightly better, but it's yellow ochre, so it's not like you're going for a really bright colour. Does that make sense?
Yep.
If you want intensity of colour, you need lots of pigment present. And especially if you want it to survive in mixes, you want a lot of pigment present. Sometimes you don't want that much pigment. So the other things you've got to consider is things like tinting strength. So if you buy a cheap yellow, it's next to useless. Buy an expensive yellow because you want it to have a decent tinting strength. Otherwise, it just disappears into every mix.
Okay.
And you're really compromising your oranges and those sorts of things. Speaking of which,
Kelton's just messaged quite a long message here. Spare with us. The main difference is that cheap paint uses talc with dye. Expensive paint uses pure minerals. The reason this matters is that it's just writing a lot, so it's going.
Oh no, this is interesting.
Is that talc dye fades with light? They will disappear in 5 to 10 years versus 50 to 100 years. Some minerals are cheaper to manufacture than others, so each brand has a big range even within themselves.
Mm. Yeah, it's an interesting thing because, it makes a lot of sense to have cheap stuff which doesn't last, because if it's the doing it, if you just want to do it and you're not making a masterpiece, if you went to Dulux and said, I'm painting my front door, and they went, well, you can only buy this paint that lasts 100 years and it's like 500 quid a tin. You go, can I get one that lasts for 10? No, you can't. I might change it in 10, and I think that's something that, you can be a bit fetishistic about paints and things like that. It's such an interesting thing. I haven't really answered your question at all, have I, Graham? I think,
Which is what is the price range? So it's
there's
looking to be quite cheap compared to.
So when you get up to the high end, you can spend 200 quid on a tube of paint.
Mm-hmm.
It will be better. Is it that much better? Is it something? I mean, when we talk about,
I guess this. Yeah. I mean, it depends on which fields that you're working in terms of because we've got stuff in the coffee shop that will. It will make a difference, but will it make a difference to the average Joe that's using it?
Yeah, well, it's hipster central in a coffee shop as well, isn't it? So.
But a hipster central, you're talking about spending 200 quid.
No, that's my point. When you're in hipster territory when you get to that. So you do get, and I would call them hipsters. You get people who will go, oh, I only use real lapis lazuli, like it's superior. It's different, but if you can't make a paint that does pretty much that, you don't know how to use paint. If you don't know how to make paint that does pretty much that without spending 200 quid, you need to work on that. Because unless you can afford it, but it will cost you a fortune. So for me, there's crucial things, which is archival, non-fugitive pigments. So you want the pigment to stay the same colour. Not as it was pointed out, not too many fillers and things like that. It's fine to use fillers, but you want to be in control of them because you want to know how that paint's going to behave and what part of the painting you're using it for. I'm going to start chucking some of this on, by the way. I'm making a cloud of light now. This is going to involve a little bit of wiping. Let's see if this works. This is why I can't do two things at once, isn't it? Yeah, so there's loads of ways you can save money and get really decent paint. A lot of student paints are using good quality pigments, the same quality pigments they use in the professional paint, and they might save a bit on the pigment, but not really that much. it's just, you know, they've got their price ranges, so they stick with them. But ultimately, you'd be a fool to pay for the expensive one. So I like to use permanent alizarin. It's a good, alizarin's a great colour, but it's very fugitive and it doesn't react well with lead white. So it can lose its colour quite easily over time, especially if it's in sunlight, which with an oil painting, you're less likely to be as careful as if you buy a watercolour painting, you'd never put it in direct sunlight, or put it under UV glass and all this stuff. Well, oil paintings are expected to sort of survive a bit better than that. So, yeah, and
God, it seems like you and Catherine could actually sit in a room and talk about this for ages, because she said, so true, sometimes you don't need a fancy blue like Lapith. You can use a good, oh, I'm going to get this so wrong, Phthalo instead?
Phthalo, yeah.
Phthalo, okay,
Yeah.
cool.
You can call it potato blue if you like.
Okay, potato glue instead. If you know how to mix colour, it doesn't matter. The key is to make sure the light fastness is good.
Yeah. So things
Okay,
like,
can you now define light fastness for me?
if you know, have you ever seen like an old tired travel agent's window that's got a picture of the Caribbean? It's gone blue.
Yes.
Right. That's poor light fastness.
Right,
Which
okay,
in
so
a poster and travel agent window is fine, but in a painting that someone paid possibly a lot of money for, it's not. And that's why a lot of early acrylic paintings have really gone off, and sometimes the collectors are really cross about it. Hockney had a whole load of problems with that. Dash some of this light around here.
There's a similar thing with like photos that over the course of time just fade in their colour.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, photographs more than anything actually, because it's, you know, if you can find a chemical that reproduces red when it, you know, when it goes through that whole process, that's an absolute win. The idea that you know, you then have to have it so it would last 50 years in the sun, it's a bit much. So yeah.
Catherine always also writes, beginners tend to buy 1 million tubes of paint. You can mix with basic colours. Only a few things you can't naturally mix, like a power orange with a smiley.
Yes. Well, I don't know if you heard earlier, but I was talking about my. I'm going to get this out just for you.
Just for me. Oh, blessed.
No, not for you. Not you, Graham.
Yeah. No. Oh.
Who do you think this is for?
That's going to be for Catherine, isn't it?
I think it's for Catherine. Yeah. Ooh, sugar Indian yellow. I've obviously hidden this at the back because it's too precious. Oh my goodness, where's it gone? Ah, no. Must be with the reds. Ah, here we are. This is one of the last, possibly one of the last tubes in the world of chrome orange. And I just to spoil myself, I might have a little squeeze of it. Well, it just shows you how often this comes out. Now, let's get me pliers. No, that's definitely one for the hot tap. But I may yet go and open this. But this is more orange than any orange.
Do you want me to go and put some water in a?
Could dip it in my tea, couldn't I? What harm could that do?
Well,
I'm joking. I'm not.
There's
a reason I don't
get some water from the kettle in a mug if you want.
No, I would rather just run it under a tap.
Okay.
Yes. So I'm gonna put that there in waiting. But yes. Oh well, I feel like we could have a very, very big old chinwag about this stuff. Okay, I'm gonna get some
I
of
think
that.
you've just blown Catherine's mind as well. She's just written, "Oh my god."
Yeah. I have been known to buy a new tube of this for students that come along and who've inherited a load of stuff, and they've got like an old tube of flake white, and they're going, it's very stiff, I don't really like it. Okay, I'll buy you another tube. It's on me. I'll take this one away. Don't worry, it will be disposed of with care, which is precisely what I'm doing right now. So yeah. So that light's sort of working now. It's kind of, and just I've got a bit more. I'm going to put some into here, just so that it's got a sense of this sort of this light washing in. Is that doing it? Oh, that's an interesting effect. So yeah, I could talk about paint all day.
I did the same with all the flake white.
What's that, sorry?
Catherine just said I did the same with all the flake white.
Yes, you get hold of it wherever you can. You can buy it again now. There was a while, I think it was EU rules, because obviously you can't trust people not to eat paint. So so you couldn't get it. I got it from America, and they would send it. You didn't have to ask them or anything. It would arrive in a big box, but surrounded by packaging, and it was like a box of cookies or something like that. And the label would just say art supplies. So they knew damn well what was going on. All these people from Europe, but yeah, you can buy it again now. But that's like 60 quid a tube, which is Kremnitz white, which is the place in Germany where they used to make it. But basic lead carbonate used to be a common industrial byproduct. You know, there'd be piles of it. But yeah, not so much anymore, which is probably a good thing. I think there's still parts of India where they don't really have proper rules or protections for people. So you can still get it from there. But okay, let's pop a bit of dark in here, and you can get a few slightly more gestural marks here. Get some of those purples. This. I'll start off with the darkest bits are, which is also in here, and in here, and there. Oh. Let's soften that in a bit. Pop a bit into that.
Catherine said, I once bought flake white in my brought flake white in my suitcase, and it always sets the scanners off because it's made of lead. I'm assuming it's not something they're familiar with.
Well,
I love stories like that.
I hope they didn't confiscate it, because I would turn around and not go on holiday.
One fun fact is that flake white is the only white you can mix glow powder in and it still glows. If you mix it into titanium, it smothers the glow entirely.
Yeah. Well, this is the whole thing. This is why I use it for glazing, because it doesn't have that same particulate quality. This is fascinating stuff, isn't it, Graham? I can tell you're...
Oh yeah, I'm quite enjoying this, yeah.
Totally on board with this whole conversation.
I once took, in terms of smuggling, well, not smuggling stuff, because that then means it sounds wrong, but I took, it was 26 kilos of coffee in my main suitcase when I went to Kuwait, because it was going to take too long and cost too much to send it, and I was going over there anyway, so I just stuffed it all into my luggage, and I just opened it up when I got there, and I just said it was for my own consumption.
For personal use.
Yeah, how long are you here? Yeah, 5 days.
I
laugh about it now, but at the time I was absolutely brilliant, to be quite honest. But
it's not exactly contraband, is it? But
No, well, no. You just don't know which way it's going to go. So,
Okay, now,
I'm surprised you've gone so dark with those shadows. 26 kilos. Oh man, I bet you didn't sleep for a month. Yeah. Welcome to my world.
you didn't drink it all yourself.
No, I didn't. It was for yeah, we were working with a company out there.
That would have been good if in customs they'd gone, okay, prove it.
Yeah.
Right.
Go.
Just have an afternoon's worth now, and we'll see how you fare. There we go. Okay, yeah. So I've got a bit more sophistication in my mixes now, and that's partly the sort of the spatula's done its job. It's partly a bit more of a range of. Now I don't want this particular lines like that, but I do this. Right, how much can I get away with into the orange? No, that's going to have to be warmer for the orange. So I'm getting some interesting, this what was effectively a blue is now traveling across and making a, ooh. Yeah, that'll do it. I kind of want thicker paint for my orange, so I'm not going to, I'm talking about fillers and stuff. Ooh, pop a bit of that in there. That wants to warm up, especially around the edges. I'm going to get some thicker paint for the orange. And I'm going to use a bit of marble dust. Make a bit of filler so I can control the consistency and then just resit some thick paint on top of it. So we'll get that slightly clayey quality, which hopefully will distinguish itself to some degree from, get away with that. Yeah, from the sort of the ceramic and the glass and what have you.
So Catherine has said, "Where in England are you based? I'm originally from Stoke, but I'm now living in Alabama."
Alabama.
Which, if you think about it, is the Stoke of America.
Well, they've got a Birmingham there, haven't they? So the Stoke of America.
So we are in the southwest in Dorset in a little town called Sherborne. James's address is.
I don't think it's hard to find my address.
No.
But yeah, no, it hasn't caused me any problems because clearly I'm always at home and suppressing a lot of violent tendencies. So people are welcome to come and break in if they want. I think I'd enjoy the exercise. But no, that's the great thing about Sherborne. Nothing happens, and it's very calm. And yeah, nothing to it. So yeah, that's a fascinating thing. I wonder what takes someone all the way to Alabama from Stoke.
But it's quite interesting to call them both the sort of the Stoke of America. Why would you move from Stoke to go and live in Stoke? Just in another country.
Well, I don't know. It would be good to go to a Stoke where Robbie Williams wasn't from.
Yeah.
Sorry to bring that up.
Beautiful, fond memories of Dorset. It's a lovely place. I've never been to Stoke.
Well, there's potteries. They're quite nice.
Catherine, what am I missing by not going to Stoke? Tell me what I'm missing. The silence could speak volumes.
That's a lot of typing.
Yeah.
It's a long list. Oh, extend that down. Okay, this is going to be interesting.
She said, that's a hard one to answer.
Oh,
I think it's true though, isn't it? Wherever you live, because you live there,
yeah.
like that, you can always say bad stuff about it, but like the good stuff.
Yeah. At the same time, it's not for anyone else's place. So, I wouldn't have anything bad to say about Stoke, but I can rip into Essex with a certain amount of authority.
It's a real stumpy ground, isn't it?
Well, I didn't really do any stomping, but okay. Now I'm not happy about the quality of paint there. I'm going to mix that colour, and I'm going to do it properly. I'm going to use, so I'm using mixing white and titanium white.
Yeah, best thing about Stoke is oat cakes, probably. It's like a savoury pound cake consistency of a crumpet-ish, filled with a full English breakfast. I can feel my arteries clogging as we speak.
Brilliant. Yeah, that's persuasive.
Yeah, I'm there, to be quite honest. Next trips to Stoke.
Is Stoke one of those places that has an interesting name for a bread roll?
Oh, you mean like Cobb or...
Cobb in Coventry.
Yeah.
Barn cake is a famous one. And what are those bread rolls they make in Dorset? What are they called?
They're not knobs, are they?
Yes, the Dorset knob.
Oh, you just wanted to get me to say that?
No,
Or
no,
did you genuinely forget?
No, it's a fun surprise, isn't it? I thought I'd just give you the privilege of... Never mind. I won't bother again.
In Stoke, it's called a bap.
Bap, right, okay. So you can find out where you are in the world, or in the UK at least, by buying a bread roll. Okay, this is going to go greener now.
That would be a very alien concept to most other countries, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
How do you know where you're from? Well, you buy a bread roll. But again, it's that whole getting it wrong, and then somebody will tell you otherwise, isn't it? So you know, I'd go to Stoke and say, "Oh, can I have a knob, please?" Maybe not in that sort of sentence.
You'd want to be careful.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're in a hurry, just run into a bakery and shout it. See what happens. Okay, this is interesting. Not quite right. Okay, at this point, I think I had that shadow colour and I sort of abandoned it. I don't really know why. I guess I didn't have anywhere else for it to go. Yeah, again, I'm doing the thing. Right, I think I'm ready to commit now. So I'm going to mix some actual colours and then just start chucking them on. The jug is looking pretty good. Fairly happy with that. Well, I've got some of these darker greens. There's some going on the inside. and there's a particular shape. So this I'm going to do carefully.
So Catherine says, I do astronomy, so sadly Stoke weather isn't good to see the stars. We were in California before, but the houses are marginally more expensive than Michael Harding paints, so we moved to somewhere cheaper. Oh, I like that.
Oh, right. So is this sort of like a remote project sort of thing? Is this related to, you know, just like university funding to go off and study something, or is it just a job? Can you have like a regular job as an astronomer? Do you have to be looking for something specific?
Good question. Anne Solomon said, we eat chocolate train on bread in the morning, so you can guess where I'm from. By the way, lovely painting.
Oh, that's nice, thank you. Chocolate
train.
No, okay, and now you're exposing my ignorance again. Something I've got a lot more familiar with in recent times, actually.
What's chocolate train?
I know, that's what I'm wondering. You're going to have to explain that to us.
Yeah, come on, Anne.
We are really that ignorant that you're going to have to explain it to us. We have no idea what's going on, do we? Chocolate on bread, it's going to suggest Holland, or maybe that's more of a chocolate sprinkles thing, I don't know, or France. I thought it was only the French that are allowed to have chocolate for breakfast. No one else can hack it. It's just a special constitution they have. Some side effect of being given wine when they're 6.
There's so many sweeping generalizations in a sentence.
Oh no, it's true. No, I think it's one of the best things we've ever imported into this country is the idea that you can have a pan of chocolate for breakfast. I love them.
Was that and muffins as well? A muffin for breakfast? It's still a cake. You're still eating cake for breakfast.
Yeah, to think how long.
It says we call it haggle slag.
This isn't narrowing it down for me at all.
Making it far more murky.
What's
I'm
it's either Germany or Holland, isn't it?
I think so, yeah.
Is that Hagelschlag? That sounds like it could be a German thing, but it could be a Scottish thing, couldn't it?
Oh, no, I wouldn't go Scottish.
It depends what sort of accent you want to, what sort of offensive accent you want to affect.
I'm refraining from just Googling because that's boring.
Well, that would be, yes. But better than that.
It's very small chocolate sprinkles.
Well, Holland then. I never knew the name for the chocolate sprinkles. I knew they put chocolate sprinkles on everything.
Chocolate sprinkles on bread.
Oh, if you're Dutch, you can put chocolate sprinkles on everything.
You can put butter on the bread as well.
Probably bacon, anything like that. Yeah. Someone watching this isn't laughing at that. They're going, yeah. That's right.
Yeah, why are you laughing?
Yeah.
Oh, cat cam. There's Minky.
Oh, has he appeared?
Yep.
Oh, you're Magnus. Okay, I've got to be careful here. I'm going to put a little bit of that reflected light. I'm doing it again. Do I need to mix these colours solidly, or is it really just whether... Okay, where was I? Oh, yeah.
It's typical Dutch.
Yeah. Hagelslag, is that, I mean, no one other than a Dutch person can pronounce anything in Dutch. They're very tolerant.
Emma Marfe's just come on. Happy memories of Hagelslag when my dad worked in the Netherlands. Whole supermarket aisles of chocolate sprinkles.
Yeah, I approve.
And Catherine writes, Oh, that's why the Dutch are so happy. They start the day with chocolate sprinkles. And Emma says, hello, by the way, enjoying the painting this evening.
Oh, thank you. Okay, here's a bit of detail that is necessary. Put a bit more.
Really liking how the glass is turning out this evening.
Is that going to do the job for the jug? Need a few little bits of highlight, but not that light. Oh, is that too much? I think I might have done a bit too much there. Let's see if it works over here. There's still room for my little specular highlights. So this is dangerous because I can get caught up in details here. It feels about right. That should work. Okay, orange. Let's do the orange. Or are we? Where?
Catherine just jumps in. Love the caustics of the glass casting onto the blue. Looks so beautiful in paint.
It's one of the most. Actually, I hadn't really mentioned it yet, but it's one of the most compelling things when I first set it up was seeing those shadows fall. And yeah, and people often. People are very kind and they go, well, you're very good at glass, aren't you? How do you paint glass? And it's one of those questions. It's like saying, how do you paint water? You know, it depends. But it's that thing of, as an artist, you're frequently doing this thing where you're trying to forget what you've seen. You're trying to forget the idea in your head of what you've seen, because that gets in the way. That's what makes us draw a stick man, or you know, some kind of shortcut that's in our head. You know, it's the thing that makes us think the sea is blue, or you know, do those little shortcuts. You know, like the little V's for birds in the sky. All those sorts of things are not exactly heuristics, but not far off it. And with glass, you're so ill prepared for what happens with the light that there isn't already an idea in your head of what it looks like, which means you're kind of completely free to discover it, which is, for me, one of the most enjoyable and interesting things about painting. Is what it tells you that you didn't know before, and I love that about it. And so I'm discovering a great deal. And when you see things like that, when you see the light scatter, now what's interesting here is what I can do to even up this ellipse, and it's going to be here that happens. That's wrong.
Catherine's just said, right, you have to stop painting what you think it should look like and paint what you actually see. Love that.
Yeah, and it's a lot of fun for a start. It's a really pleasurable thing to do, to sort of discover what's really, you know, you find out, you know, how to paint glass by looking at it, you know. And every time you sit down to paint glass, you don't know how to paint glass. And if someone said, how do you paint glass? You go, I don't know, let's have a look. And that's literally what happens. And it's exciting and fun every time.
Which also sounds like one of the questions that we were asking earlier, but that's such a simple answer, but it's the right one. You just look at it
Yeah, yeah. Which could seem a bit. I mean, that's the thing. I always get it when people say things like, "Oh yeah, how do you paint trees, or how do you paint water, or something like that?" And there is only one answer, which is look at it. That is the honest answer, and it's right, but it feels almost rude because you're missing the spirit of the question, which is there's a whole load of stuff to unpack there, which is.
But it's such a broad question, though, isn't it? It's not like they're not being specific about the way that they're asking you how to paint a particular part. They're not saying how do you paint a reflection in a glass,
But
or how do you paint highlights.
if you don't understand it yet, and there's a lot of things like this. I think this happens a lot with scientists. Is people will ask them questions, and they have to sort of explain that it's the wrong question because the person asking the question doesn't understand the question that they're asking because it's this sort of there's this other thing going on. Yeah, so, I don't know how to put it better than that, really. Okay, I'm fiddling with that now. Stop fiddling with it. The glass is starting to appear now. While I've got this going, I can pop a little bit in here. And I've still got some of these sort of creamy lights to go. Oh,
Catherine chimes in again with it's more like don't look at the glass itself, look at the highlights, look at the shadows, look at the unusual shapes.
Yeah, you're just seeing, because you can't see transparency. That's sort of defines itself really in a way. And so you're kind of into this thing, and it's really useful. It's a really useful thing to practice for anyone who wants to learn to paint or draw, because if you've got something which is utterly familiar, like a face, so when I do portraits, I'm using exactly this skill, which has been honed by just putting yourself into this mode. Betty Edwards, in her book Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain, called it the R mode, and it's been characterized in lots of different ways over time. It's that thing of letting go. There's various things that artists have always done as well, like squinting. So the artists squint. It's a fun thing to try and say. Is a sort of a common tool to access that way of thinking, and it's interesting.
So here's a question for you then. You say about sort of painting portraits, and you know what it is to paint a face, so before you can go on and do it. But do you find it easier to paint somebody who you've never seen or met before, or somebody that you know?
It doesn't make a lot of difference, because someone I know, I'm not spending my whole time studying their features, and so there's still just as much sort of discovery going on, if you like. I think the point I was trying to make just now is that oh, sorry, I'm just seeing some things. No, that's okay. To do something like paint a face, you've sort of got to forget what a face is, and that's really hard to do, because our brain is so tuned to see faces and understand them and sort of, recognize the human being, that it's really hard to switch that off. And so what we do is that we prioritize those things that make a face, like the features and knowledge we have about faces, like the fact that there's nostrils and a lip line and all these things that might not be at all visible, with a particular person's head at a particular angle. But yeah, I'm nonetheless a kind of a they're sort of important to us in a way. They seem like the kind of thing that matters, and so they end up taking over from what you're actually seeing. So you need this very well exercised mental process of looking in order to go back into that mode and break out of those normal habits of how we compartmentalize the world in our heads. I think I put that quite well. I was quite pleased with that. Okay.
Good job it's recorded, isn't it?
Yes.
Get back and
I sometimes think every now and again, like I do manage to compose a thought well enough, but I think I should have recorded that. By the end of the last sentence, I've already forgotten how I started, and I couldn't do it again. Often in classes, that's the case. Right. Am I going to use some marble? I don't think I need to use any marble dust on this. I think that is necessary.
Catherine's just chimed in on the paint someone you know or don't know, and she said someone you don't know because they won't talk as much. No, you need to tune in for the talking heads.
Yes, yeah, I quite like painting people while they're talking. But it can be really annoying when actually the really tricky thing with the live streams is that if it's just me, the time when I need to concentrate the most is when I go the most quiet, and as a result, the person I'm painting would go very quiet as well, which means they'd end up in sort of solemn-faced mode, and they'd look thoroughly miserable, like most of my portraits do. I really do know how to bring out the inner gloom. Yes, that's been the good thing about having a bit of assistance.
Oh, careful, James. That almost sounded like a compliment.
Oh, right. Sorry, I'll backtrack on that.
Rein that in.
That's the good thing about having this wasted gabbing away.
Just to let you know, we are at 9 o'clock.
Right. Well, I think I'm pretty much done. So there's a few things to go in. There's specular highlights, and there's some of this bright orange. But remarkably, the bright orange will pretty much take care of itself. And we're going to watch that happen now. We're going to paste some of that on here. So here's where it's very orange. Oh, lump. Be gone. I'm not usually that fussy about lumps, but I don't want that one. And then it's going to lighten up. As it lightens up, it's going to get more yellow in it as well.
So just for sort of Catherine's benefit, I think this is the first time that she has joined us.
Oh, well.
So we're here every Monday night, 7 until 9 UK time. Sometimes it is still life. Other times we're doing portraits. We're doing something we're at the moment calling Talking Heads of Sherborne, where we get people who, well, you won't see them, but they're wandering around town and who you don't really know too much about them. And I'll chat with them whilst James paints them for 2 hours. And it's a bit of an insight into them. Whilst James then captures what he sees of them. It's just good fun. It's just really good.
A bit more red in there.
So perfect. She's going to be back next week. Amazing.
Oh, well, it's been really lovely to have you along. Thank you for joining us. Do appreciate that. Oh, and highlights. Let's go.
Oof.
Oh, you know what I will do? I will put a hard edge on that orange here, because that's where it needs a hard edge.
Because it's very fascinating. I almost never paint from life, since astronomy isn't ideal in person given the lack of telescope eyeballs, and it's also rather dark.
Well, I hope this is inspiration to have a little crack. And you know what? I'm gonna try and introduce a few other bits and pieces. Specifically, I haven't got any real darks in here, have I? I don't think I need them either. Yeah, specifically the idea of working from drawings. Thought it'd be quite fun to sort of work from some of my drawings and do some more invented kind of.
Is that what you and I were discussing earlier?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
There's some dark in here. Oh, there's a bit. Pop a bit in that. Any more? A little bit in there. A little bit in here. So yes, this sort of orange creeping in. Is that going to be okay? Something like that. Okay. Let's do some highlights. I'm going to use a little bit of this orange to make a highlight. That'll have a nice glow to it. And I'm also going to need some cool highlights, which are going to be using this green. And if I need to add a little bit more, oh, that's probably too much. A little bit more light, then I can just do it with a brush mix as I go along. So let's go with cool highlights first. A tiny little bit of oil just to make it flow. Ooh. Okay, what have we got? We've got, is that brush going to hold its shape? There's almost a temptation to use a soft brush here, but this is going to be fine. It's going to be a bit. There's a few little brushes there. I'm going to keep reloading the brush so I keep getting the marks I need, which is not what I got there.
You talked about the number brush that you were using earlier. They don't do sort of stupid stuff like the higher the number, the smaller the brush is, or something.
No. It's the opposite. So you can get like if you're doing super detailed work, like if you're a modeler or something like that, you can get like 000 and that kind of thing.
Is that the almost sort of very long, thin?
No, that's more to do with the brush shape. So that's a rigger probably.
Okay.
But oh, highlight on the outside of that. Little flash on here. Any more? Yeah, tiny little dab on that. A little bit on here. Is that too much? No. I think we're okay. What's that doing? So yeah, it's all these little dancing lights around the inside of this. After that, that's pretty good. Sneak a bit of that in there.
Josie says, great painting, glass and shadow are fab.
Thank you. Well, this is the last bit just to, let's go with some of these warm highlights. I'm not adding anything to this. So I've got to start off where it's really bright. There we are. Little dash of light across there. Not worrying too much about making it directional. So some of these warm shapes I was putting in were preparation for these highlights, so they've got somewhere to sit. So we've got, so that's there. Okay. A few more in here. Where else are they going to turn up? Yeah, a little bit on there. Yeah, I like the way the glass leans slightly. I spotted that early on, but I thought I'd just sort of leave it in there. I'm going to have to soften this down a bit. That's sort of, it's all a bit too intense.
And so it's very interesting to see your lighting setup. It's always so hard to see with the glare sometimes. Rembrandt used to paint in a tower with a high light source, so I'm told.
Yes. So yeah, the high light means that you don't get reflections. Well, you do, but you'd have to stick your head underneath. So it's a way of solving that, which is good for the camera. The whole thing with the hyperbolic reflector is me being a geek and enjoying making that kind of thing. But it's good for the camera because the whole idea of the light is you get the same amount of light at the bottom as at the top, roughly. But actually, you don't need that if it's just for you, because your eye is pretty good at separating these things out. You know, your eye will adjust as it looks up and down, so you can almost a person can almost paint in the dark, to be honest. This, oh, what's this? I'm just going to make a little bit of this greeny brown just for that bit there. That felt necessary. Darken off one side of it. Good. Anywhere else? Then that needs to go. Oh, I'm fiddling now. Stop fiddling. Is that done? I think that's probably done. Oh, I'm not entirely happy with it. Then I never am I? It's got some quality to it. The funny thing is, I mean, this bit here with that dark shadow around the edge of the jug is probably the most true, honest bit of it, and it's really distracting in the painting. But that's okay. I'll let that go. Yeah, so the warms and how they connect together, and the blue as a flat background, that's quite fun. I'm going to have to sign it in orange, aren't I? It'd be rude to use anything else. I didn't get the chrome orange out, but I don't think I really needed it because of the blue background. If this were on a warmer background, the orange wouldn't look orange enough. There you go. So let's have a little close-up of this, shall we?
Change the camera so that it's...
Yeah.
We don't need to do that these days, do we?
No, we shouldn't do. Well,
Ta-da.
yes, a ta-da moment. So there's the whole image, and there's roughly the view from where I was. You see, it's a bit different to the other camera. This is obviously making the oranges look a lot redder, but that's pretty good. I'm quite happy with that. So let's have a little zoom in. There's my glass. There's my orange. There's my jug.
It's fascinating, just that one tiny bit of red speck on the handle of the jug.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things that your brain sees but you don't, which I quite enjoy about painting. It's one of the things I find fun. So yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Excellent. Cool.
Thank you so much for joining us and for the conversation. It's really nice to have messages coming from far and wide and joining in with the whole thing. I know a lot of YouTubers really encourage people to subscribe and to you know, put the little bell on and all that kind of thing. I couldn't care less. It's not what it's about. But yeah, do keep an eye out and do join again, because I really love to hear people's comments and questions, and I've learned some things tonight as well, which I always appreciate.
Likewise. Yeah,
there's always sort of insights and understanding how other people do things, so it's nice to feel part of a little artistic community. So thanks so much for coming, and see you next time.
Yeah, thank you very much, everybody. See you.